All right, hey. So, one of the most commonly asked questions I get is how do I visualize the fretboard with all the scales and chords and arpeggios and patterns that you can find? And it's obviously not a question that is easily condensed to a short form answer. It's one of those things. It's like asking someone like how do you compose a song or something. It's like you don't need many building blocks at all to make music. If you can hammer two things together and make a rhythm, that's music. And you can start making music on the fretboard without really knowing anything at all, right? You just pick a note and like that's music. Then as you go along, you want to learn more and more things, and you start to see how things are connected. And it's a lifelong journey. It never ends, and the more you know, the more you want to know, and the deeper it gets. So I want to try to show you some of the stuff that I did throughout the 40 years that I've been playing guitar. And this is not gonna be like an all-encompassing thing where I can cover everything, because like there's no way anyone can cover everything. But I'm gonna try to start at a reasonably basic level and take from there in a series of lessons. And let me know what you think about these. So I guess we're gonna start with some simple building blocks of music that are really worthwhile to work on some extra. And I'm sure for some of you this will be very, very informative and maybe new, and maybe you haven't done this kind of thing too much. And for some of you, you will already have this under your belt. Still, it might be something that can be worth going back to and see if there are any gaps in your fretboard map. So let's start with diatonic triads. And with what I mean with that is triads from a diatonic scale, which is like the major scale or minor scale, and play them in closed voicings, and try to find them on as many places on the fretboard as you can think of. And one thing about the guitar is that, like, obviously we have the fourth interval between most of the strings, but then we have the major third there that kind of messes up the patterns that we have. So if we learn a triad and we want to transpose it, you can just like move it to the next strings. But when you get down to, then we can't suddenly play that exact pattern anymore. So we have to adjust for that. So that means that in a way there's a whole lot of different patterns that we need to use. But we have one thing that is great with the guitar, which is an advantage from playing the keyboard. I mean, one thing that's good with the keyboard is that, you have this pattern, you can move it up an octave. And if you're playing white keys, like there are some things that make it very easy on the piano, but if you want to transpose things chromatically, you have to switch between white and black keys. Whereas on the guitar, if you want to transpose something, you can just move it like that. So that's an advantage we have. So, but anyways, I kind of digress. Let's start by looking at what kind of triads we have in the diatonic major scale. So we have the major triad. We have a minor triad, for example, D minor, and we have the diminished triad, like B. So a good way to start is by just practicing playing these triads, but one at a time, and we can do them all in C. And I encourage you to try to do this and walk through all keys. Maybe not during the same practice session, because then it's going to take hours to get through them, but find a way to kind of work them all. If you got it, I've got a 12-sided dice that I can roll, and if I get the number 1, it's a C, number 2 is a C sharp, and so on. So you can cover all keys, and you can kind of randomize it, which can, for me, that makes it exciting because it also takes away some decision making, which can be cool. But anyway, let's for the sake of starting out, let's do it in C this time around. And while I'm playing a 7th string here, I'm gonna not play the 7th string. If you play 7th string, you can play triad involving the 7th string as well. But the first exercise I do is to play. I'm gonna start with the lowest possible triad on the 4th, 5th, and 6th string, like that. And then I'm gonna move it up to the next 3 strings. And in this position, I've got open string notes available. And then I move up. And obviously you have all this in the PDF that's included with this lesson. And when you do this, try to pay attention to what each inversion is. And what an inversion is if you have the root note at the bottom of the triad, it's in root position. If you have the 3rd at the bottom of your triad, it's the 1st inversion, and 5th in the bottom is 2nd inversion, and then you're back in root inversion. So you got 3 different options. So try to see what kind of note you have as the lowest note. So 2nd inversion, root, 1st, 2nd, and then just work through this. And now I'm playing these triads harmonically, meaning I play the notes ringing together. But obviously, you can arpeggiate them if you want to. And having this kind of knowledge about triads means that it's when you're playing chords underneath someone's singing or something, you can you can move around a lot, and even when you're improvising and playing solo, if you're playing with a clean sound and you want to have do like a chord melody, it's really nice. But you start with C major and then you go to C minor, and you're gonna see in the tab that I included that for some of these I've written out just a rest and not a chord, because it's like in this position when I play minor I got an E, and C minor should have the E flat. So there are some, you can only use the open strings of course when they align with the kind of notes you need. But you go through minor and then you do diminished. And I actually don't use this chord a lot, which is kind of funny, but it's just I really like major and minor triads. So, and this doesn't get a lot of playtime for me. So that's something that I discovered preparing for this lesson, is that's something that I should practice on more, because I don't hate the sound. It's a cool sound that you can apply in all kinds of different contexts. So I should work on it more. But anyway, so you got those 3 triads down on your own, going through them, and obviously you can do things that I haven't included in the PDF. You can climb up just on 3 adjacent strings, and so on. Anyway, let's move on to harmonizing the scale. And by that I mean you take each note of the scale, C major, and you build a triad of each note. And then you work through playing that kind of thing, all over the neck. So we're gonna start in root position on the 4th, 5th, and 6th string. So here we have the C, but the lowest possible triad from the key is G. And you can utilize the open D string. And something you can try to think about when you practice this is what kind of function each chord has. C, it's the tonic, and we call that the 1 chord. The 1 chord. D is the 2 minor. E is the 3 minor. F is the 4 minor. G is the 5 minor. A is the 6 minor, and B is the 7 diminished. And then you're back to the 1 again. So on these 3 strings, we start on the G, which is the 5 chord, A minor, which is the 6 chord, 6 minor. So try to just be mindful of that, so you can be like, I'm on the 4 chord. So you don't confuse F with C. You don't confuse this major triad with the tonic, with the 1 chord. And just try to have your eyes on that, your mind on that, is very helpful in navigating later. So yeah, so you do that first position triads on these 3 strings, and then you move on to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th string, and the lowest triad you can do here is the C, the 1 chord, 2 minor, 3 minor, and you can go from the lowest triad possible to the highest one that you can comfortably fret, and then you just move on to the next and to the next. In this case, that's gonna be and so on, and that's all root position triads. And then you move on to second inversion triads, and then the lowest one we're gonna have is D minor. And this is like, I'm sure there are gonna be triads that you haven't used a lot. I mean, these are cool sounds. And then just next 3 strings. And so on and so forth. And then finally you do the second inversion, where you start on the 5th. So on these 3 strings, it's gonna start with the B diminished. It's a kind of funky chord. All right, so that's pretty much it for this one. So that's just a whole lot of stuff to practice, and maybe it's too much for you to do in one session, to go through everything in one key, but find a way to try to get through all of this at some point and go through many different keys. And when you're really comfortable with playing C, do something else, A flat or F sharp, something that just throws you out of your comfort zone. Because if you don't venture out of the known territory, you're not gonna discover new fretboard territory. And I think that's a very important thing, that if we stick our playing to being in the same places every time we play, chances are you're not gonna learn anything new. So yeah, so that's all for this first one. So let me know what you think, and if you have any ideas of what you want me to cover next in unlocking the fretboard, please let me know. And cheers.